The crystal champagne flute shattered against the marble floor of the executive lobby, spraying expensive French wine across Adana Okafor's worn cleaning uniform. She stood frozen, mop in hand, as the liquid soaked through the thin fabric, clinging to her skin in the air-conditioned chill of the Victoria Island high-rise. "Are you blind as well as incompetent?" The voice belonged to Chukwemeka Adeleke, though everyone called him Emeka. He stood in a circle of his designer-suited friends, all children of Lagos's elite, their laughter echoing off the glass walls of Adeleke Global Enterprises. His Rolex caught the morning light as he gestured dismissively at the mess. "This is why poor people should stay in their villages. They come to Lagos and don't even know how to walk without getting in the way of their betters." Adana's fingers tightened around the mop handle. The other cleaners had warned her about the CEO's son, 28 years old, Oxford-educated, and convinced the world existed to serve him. But nothing had prepared her for the venom in his eyes, the casual cruelty that came as naturally to him as breathing. "I'm sorry, sir," she said softly, her Igbo accent thickening with stress. "I didn't see you coming around the corner." "Of course you didn't see me. People like you never see anything beyond your next meal, do they?" Emeka pulled out his phone, snapping a photo of her standing in the puddle of wine. "This is going on my Instagram story. When the help can't even clean without making more mess. My followers will love this." His friends erupted in fresh laughter. One of them, a young woman dripping in gold jewelry, wrinkled her nose. "Emeka, darling, she probably can't even afford to replace that bottle. It was the moat and Chandon your father keeps for VIP clients." "Then she'll work it off," Emeka said, his tone turning darker. He stepped closer to Adana, invading her space until she could smell his expensive cologne mixed with alcohol. "You'll stay after your shift ends. Every day this week. Unpaid. Consider it your fine for being careless around your superiors. What would you do if you were publicly humiliated like this at your workplace? Hit like if you believe in standing up to bullies, and comment below where you're watching from. Lagos, London, or Los Angeles." Adana kept her head bowed, but beneath her lowered lashes, her eyes blazed. She'd spent 6 months in this building, arriving before dawn to clean the offices of Adeleke Global Enterprises, one of Nigeria's largest conglomerates. 6 months watching Emeka waste his father's money, harass female employees, and treat the service staff like dirt beneath his Italian leather shoes. He didn't know that she'd been studying him, learning his patterns, his weaknesses, his secrets. He certainly didn't know the truth that would destroy his entire world. "Get this mess cleaned up," Emeka ordered, already turning away. "And someone get me another bottle from my father's private collection. The 2015 vintage this time." He paused, glancing back at Adana with a smirk. "Oh, and remind me of your name again? I want to make sure I spell it correctly when I file the complaint with HR." "Adana, sir. Adana Okafor." "Well, Adana Okafor, welcome to the real Lagos. Here, people like you serve people like me. The sooner you accept that, the easier your pathetic little life will be." As Emeka and his entourage disappeared into the private elevator, the one reserved for executives and their families, the other cleaners rushed to Adana's side. Ngozi, an older woman who'd worked in the building for 15 years, handed her a towel. "Don't let him see you cry," Ngozi whispered. "Men like that, they feed on tears like mosquitoes feed on blood." "I'm not crying," Adana said, and it was true. Her eyes were dry, though her hands trembled slightly as she began mopping up the spilled champagne. "I'm planning." Ngozi gave her a sharp look. "Planning what?" But Adana didn't answer. She simply smiled, a small, secret smile that didn't reach her eyes, and continued cleaning, her mind already 3 steps ahead. In her small room in the staff quarters that night, Adana sat on her narrow bed and pulled out a locked briefcase from beneath it. Inside were documents that would make Emeka Adeleke's blood run cold, incorporation papers, stock certificates, and a photograph of her standing beside Chief Adeleke himself, taken 12 years ago when she was still Adana Okafor Adeleke, the old man's goddaughter and secret business partner. She'd returned to Lagos under an assumed identity for one purpose: to see if Emeka had changed from the cruel boy who destroyed her sister's life 5 years ago, to determine if he deserved the inheritance his father planned to give him. Today, he'd given her all the proof she needed. Adana picked up her phone and dialed a number she knew by heart. When the familiar voice answered, she spoke clearly and without emotion. "Uncle Tund, it's time. Start the process. By the end of this month, Emeka Adeleke won't own a single naira of his father's company." "Are you certain, Adana?" "Chief Adeleke won't take this lightly, even if the shares are legally yours." "I'm certain. And uncle, make sure Emeka doesn't suspect anything until it's too late. I want him to feel exactly what my sister felt when he humiliated her, powerless, exposed, and utterly destroyed." As she ended the call, Adana caught her reflection in the small mirror above her sink. The woman staring back looked nothing like the polished executive she'd once been. Hair covered by a cleaning scarf, face bare of makeup, hands roughened by industrial cleaners. But her eyes held the same fire they'd always had. Emeka Adeleke had made his biggest mistake today. He'd dismissed her as harmless, as beneath his notice, by the time she was finished with him. He'd learned that revenge, like fine wine, was best served cold. Don't forget to like, subscribe, and turn on notifications for more gripping stories of revenge and justice. What do you think Adana should do to Emeka? Comment below with your predictions. Chief Adeleke's 75th birthday celebration was legendary before it even began. The invitation alone, embossed gold lettering on imported Italian paper, had been the talk of Lagos society for weeks. Now, as the sun set over the Atlantic Ocean beyond the estate's manicured lawns, Nigeria's elite gathered in their finest attire, eager to be seen at the event of the season. Adana moved through the crowd with a tray of champagne flutes, her cleaning uniform replaced by the crisp white shirt and black vest of catering staff. She'd volunteered for the serving team, knowing this party would give her access to conversations that happened when the wealthy thought the help was invisible. "More champagne, madam?" she asked softly, approaching a cluster of women dripping in Swarovski crystals and traditional Geli head wraps made from the most expensive Osso oak fabric. The women didn't even glance at her as they continued their gossip, their Lagos Island accents sharp with judgment. "I heard Emeka crashed another one of his father's Mercedes last week," one said, her gold bracelets jangling as she gestured. "The G-Wagon this time. 3 million naira in damages." "Chief Adeleke spoiled that boy rotten," another agreed. "My husband does business with him, and he says the old man is finally getting tired of Emeka's behavior. Talking about restructuring the company, bringing in outside management." Adana's pulse quickened, though her face remained neutral. She moved away slowly, catching fragments of other conversations, business deals, political connections, family scandals. This was how Lagos worked, fortunes made and destroyed over wine and small talk, while the city's invisible workers witnessed everything. "You there?" The sharp voice made Adana turn. Mrs. Adeleke, Emeka's mother, stood with her arms crossed, her designer kaftan flowing around her like a silk waterfall. Despite being in her 60s, she maintained the fierce beauty that had made her a fashion icon in the 80s. "Why is my son's glass empty? Do you people not understand the concept of attentive service?" Adana followed her pointing finger to where Emeka held court near the infinity pool, surrounded by the same friends who'd laughed at her humiliation. He was already drunk, his designer Agbada askew, his voice too loud as he told a story that had his audience in stitches. "Right away, madam," Adana said, bowing her head. As she approached Emeka's group, she heard the punchline of his story. "And then I told the stupid cleaner she'd have to work unpaid for a week. You should have seen her face. Like a kicked puppy." More laughter. "My father keeps telling me to respect the staff, but honestly, if they wanted respect, they should have made better life choices." Adana stood at the edge of his circle, tray extended. For several seconds, no one acknowledged her presence. This was another game the wealthy played, seeing how long they could ignore service staff, asserting dominance through deliberate blindness. Finally, Emeka grabbed a glass without looking at her. Some of the champagne sloshed onto her hand, but she didn't flinch. "Careful," he said lazily, still not meeting her eyes. This isn't the cheap stuff we give to people like you at staff parties. This is Dom Perignon. One bottle costs more than you make in 6 months. Yes, sir, Adana murmured. One of Emeka's friends, a young man named Femi who worked in his father's oil company, leaned forward with sudden interest. Wait, isn't she the one from your Instagram story last week? The cleaner who spilled wine all over herself. Emeka finally looked at Adana properly, recognition dawning in his bloodshot eyes. A slow, cruel smile spread across his face. Well, Adana, right? They promoted you from janitor to waitress? Careful, or you'll get ideas above your station. The circle erupted in laughter again, and Adana felt the familiar burn of public humiliation. But she'd learned long ago to separate her feelings from her face. She simply nodded and began to turn away. Hold on, Emeka called out, grabbing her wrist. His grip was too tight, fingers digging into her skin. I want my friends to hear this. Tell them what I caught you doing yesterday. Adana's mind raced. She'd been careful, always maintaining her cover. Sir, I don't understand. You were on the executive floor. The 40th floor, where cleaners aren't allowed without supervision. His eyes gleamed with malicious pleasure. I saw you coming out of my father's private office. What were you doing in there? Stealing. The accusation hung in the air like smoke. Around them, other guests began to take notice, conversations dying as people turned to watch the spectacle. This was what Lagos society loved, drama involving the lower classes, especially when it confirmed their prejudices about poverty and criminality. I was cleaning, sir, Adana said quietly. Mr. Okonkwo from maintenance sent me to. Okonkwo is on leave this week. Emeka cut her off triumphantly. Try again. Or better yet, empty your pockets. Let's see what a poor cleaner thinks she can take from a billionaire's office. The crowd had fully circled them now, phones appearing as people prepared to capture whatever happened next. Adana recognized several society bloggers, their eyes alight with the promise of scandal. By tomorrow morning, this would be all over Lagos social media. Another story of domestic betrayal and class warfare in Nigeria's megacity. Adana slowly reached into her vest pocket and pulled out the only thing she carried, a worn leather notebook, its pages filled with her careful handwriting. Emeka snatched it from her hand, flipping through it with growing confusion. What is this? Some kind of diary. Cleaning schedules, sir, Adana said. I keep track of which offices need attention and... This is pathetic, Emeka interrupted, tossing the notebook to the ground. You know what? I'm tired of this. Security. 2 guards materialized from the crowd, their faces impassive. They knew better than to question the boss's son, no matter how drunk he was. Escort this woman off the property, Emeka ordered. And call the main office. I want her fired. Effective immediately. Someone who lies about being sent to clean executive offices can't be trusted. Sir, please, Adana said, letting her voice break just slightly. I need this job. My family depends on. Should have thought of that before you tried to steal from my father, Emeka said coldly. Get her out of my sight. As the security guards gripped her arms, preparing to march her through the crowd of Lagos's elite, Adana caught sight of Chief Adalik himself, watching from the terrace above. Their eyes met for just a moment, and she saw something flicker in his expression. Recognition, perhaps, or regret. The old man raised his glass to her in a gesture so subtle that no one else noticed. Then he turned away, disappearing into his mansion. Message received. The guards walked Adana through the gates, past the luxury cars and the valets, into the humid Lagos night. As soon as they were out of sight of the party, they released her arms. Sorry, madam, the older guard said quietly. Just following orders. I understand, Adana replied, straightening her vest. You have families to feed. She walked down the long driveway alone, her phone already vibrating with notifications. The videos were already online. Billionaire's son catches thieving cleaner at father's birthday party. The comments section was predictably vicious, full of judgments about poverty and morality from people who'd never missed a meal in their lives. Adana smiled as she scrolled through them. Let them talk. Let Emeka feel powerful for one more night. By Monday morning, the entire board of Adelik Global Enterprises would receive packets containing proof that Adana Okafor owned 48% of the company's shares, just 2% less than Chief Adelik himself, and significantly more than the 15% that would one day belong to Emeka. The papers had been filed years ago, payment for her father's early investment in Chief Adelik's first business venture. The old man had been grateful, had promised to protect the shares until Adana was ready to claim them. That time had come. She reached the main road and flagged down a taxi, giving the driver an address in Ikoyi, where her real apartment waited, the penthouse with floor-to-ceiling windows overlooking the lagoon. Rough night? The driver asked, eyeing her catering uniform in the rearview mirror. Not at all, Adana said, settling into the back seat. In fact, I'd say everything is going exactly according to plan. The emergency board meeting was called for Monday at 8 a.m., but Adana arrived at 6:30, when the building was still mostly empty. She rode the executive elevator, her elevator now, legally speaking, to the 40th floor, her heels clicking against marble that she'd scrubbed on her hands and knees just days before. The transformation was complete. Gone was the tired cleaner in a worn uniform. In her place stood a woman in a tailored navy suit from a boutique in Lekki Phase 1, her natural hair styled in elegant braids, her makeup subtle but perfect. She looked exactly like what she was, a major shareholder in a Billionaire corporation. Uncle Tund was already in the boardroom, reviewing documents. He'd been Chief Adelik's lawyer for 30 years and had drafted the original share agreement when Adana was still a teenager. Now in his 60s, he had the distinguished air of a man who'd negotiated some of Nigeria's biggest business deals. Are you ready for this? He asked as Adana set her briefcase on the polished conference table. Once we start, there's no going back. Emeka will fight with everything he has. Let him fight, Adana said calmly. The law is clear. These shares were purchased legally, transferred legally, and registered legally. He can scream all he wants, it won't change the documents filed with the Corporate Affairs Commission. It's not just about legality, Uncle Tund warned. This is Lagos. This is family. Chief Adelik may support you in principle, but publicly destroying his only son? That's asking him to choose between business and blood. Adana walked to the floor-to-ceiling windows, gazing out at the city waking below. Lagos sprawled in every direction, organized chaos, beauty and ugliness intertwined, a place where fortunes changed overnight and the ambitious either rose or drowned. He destroyed my sister, she said quietly. Did Emeka think about family then? When he got Kayamaka pregnant and then denied it was his child? When he paid those bloggers to call her a gold digger and a prostitute? When she lost her job because the scandal made her unemployable? I remember, Uncle Tund said softly. I also remember that she took her own life because she couldn't handle the public disgrace. The words hung between them like a ghost. Kayamaka had been 23, bright and beautiful, with dreams of becoming an architect. She'd made the mistake of believing Emeka's promises, of thinking his late-night declarations of love meant something. The pregnancy had terrified her, but she'd been ready to face it. What she hadn't been ready for was Emeka's systematic destruction of her reputation, orchestrated with the casual cruelty of someone who'd never faced consequences. Adana had been studying in London when she got the call. By the time she flew home, her sister was already gone, buried in their family compound in Enugu while Lagos society moved on to the next scandal. Chief Adelik tried to make amends, Uncle Tund continued. The donation to your family, the scholarship fund in Kayamaka's name. Blood money, Adana said sharply. He knew what his son did. He knew, and he covered it up because protecting the Adelik name was more important than justice for a poor girl from Enugu. So this is revenge. This is accountability. Adana turned from the window. And it's business. Those shares are mine. I've spent 5 years building my own company in London, proving I can handle this responsibility. Chief Adelique knows I'm the better choice to lead this organization into the future. The elevator chimed. Through the glass walls of the boardroom, Adana watched as board members began arriving. Directors who controlled departments, managed billions, and answered to Chief Adelique's vision. Most of them had never seen her before, had no idea that the woman in their boardroom owned nearly half the company they served. At 7:45, Chief Adelique himself arrived. He'd aged in the years since Adana had last seen him up close. More grey in his hair, deeper lines around his eyes. But he still carried himself with the authority of a man who'd built an empire from nothing. He paused when he saw Adana, his expression unreadable. Then, slowly, he nodded and took his seat at the head of the table. "Good morning, my dear," he said quietly. "It's been too long." "Good morning, uncle," Adana replied, using the traditional respectful term. Despite everything, he'd been like family once. Before. Emeka crashed through the door at 8:15, 15 minutes late and clearly hungover. He stopped dead when he saw Adana, confusion clouding his features. "What is the cleaner doing in the boardroom?" he demanded, looking at his father. "And why is she dressed like that? Is this some kind of diversity initiative I wasn't told about?" The other board members shifted uncomfortably. Some stared at their papers. Others watched with barely concealed curiosity, sensing blood in the water. Chief Adelique gestured to an empty chair. "Sit down, Emeka. There's something you need to hear. I'm not sitting anywhere until someone explains why a woman I had fired on Saturday is sitting at our executive table on Monday." Uncle Tun stood, opening his briefcase with deliberate slowness. "Mr. Emeka, I'd like to introduce you to Miss Adana Okafor, holder of 48% of Adelique Global Enterprises shares, making her the second largest shareholder in this company." The silence that followed was absolute. Emeka's face went through several colors: confusion, disbelief, and then a deep, ugly red. "That's impossible," he said flatly. "My father owns 70%. I own 15%. The rest is split among the board. There are no other major shareholders." "Your information is outdated," Uncle Tund replied, distributing packets to each board member. "These documents, certified by the Corporate Affairs Commission and notarized by 3 independent witnesses, show the transfer of shares from Chief Adelique to Miss Okafor's late father 12 years ago, as payment for his initial investment in what was then Adelique Trading Company." "My father would never," Emeka started. "Your father signed these documents himself," Adana interrupted, her voice calm and clear. "As did mine. When my father passed away 4 years ago, the shares transferred to me as his sole heir. Everything is legal, documented, and irreversible." Emeka's hands were shaking as he flipped through the packet. Adana watched him process the implications. She owned more of the company than he did. She had voting rights. She could influence every major decision. "This is some kind of fraud," Emeka said desperately, turning to his father. "Father, tell them this is fake. Tell them we'll sue for." "It's real, Emeka," Chief Adelique said heavily. "Every word of it. Adana's father saved this company when we were on the edge of bankruptcy. I gave him those shares as thanks. I hoped we'd never need to have this conversation. Then why are we having it now?" Emeka's voice rose to a shout. "Why is this woman, this cleaner, sitting here claiming to own my inheritance?" "Because you've proven yourself unworthy of it," Adana said softly. The boardroom erupted. Directors began speaking over each other, demanding explanations, questioning the legal validity, calculating how this changed the company's power structure. In the chaos, Emeka's eyes locked on Adana's, and she saw the exact moment understanding dawned. "You," he breathed. "This whole time. The cleaning job. The uniform. Getting close to the company. This was all planned." "Yes," Adana admitted. "I came back to Lagos to see if you'd changed. To see if you'd learned anything from the pain you caused. But you haven't changed at all, have you, Emeka? You're still the same cruel boy who thinks poverty is funny and power is permission to hurt people." Who are you really? Emeka demanded. Because you're not just some random cleaner with shares. Nobody goes through this much trouble for. Her name was Kayamaka, Adana said, and her voice could have cut glass. Kayamaka Okafor. She was my sister. And you killed her. The boardroom went silent again. Several of the older board members closed their eyes, remembering the scandal from 5 years ago. The young pregnant girl. The public denials. The suicide. Emeka's face went white. That's ancient history. I was young, stupid. You were 23. The same age she was. Old enough to know better. Old enough to be held accountable. Adana stood, facing him across the table. You destroyed her life for fun, Emeka. You made her death into entertainment for your friends. And when she couldn't take it anymore, when she ended her life because the emotional manipulation and public disgrace were too much to bear, you went to a party. I didn't know she would. You didn't care. Adana's composure finally cracked, years of grief and rage pouring through. You didn't care then, and you don't care now. You think you're untouchable because you were born into wealth, because your father built an empire. But you're wrong. She pulled out her phone, projecting an image onto the boardroom screen. It was the Instagram post from her first week, Adana in her cleaning uniform, standing in spilled champagne, while Emeka's caption mocked her. This is who you are, Adana said. This is what you do with power. And this is why, effective immediately, I'm exercising my rights as a major shareholder to call for a vote of no confidence in Emeka Adelik's position as Vice President of Operations. This is getting intense. What do you think the board will decide? Comment your predictions below, and hit that subscribe button so you don't miss what happens next. Do you think Emeka deserves what's coming? Let us know. The vote took less than 10 minutes. 7 directors sided with Adana. 3 abstained, unwilling to publicly oppose Chief Adelik's son but equally unwilling to support him. Only 2 voted in Emeka's favor, old family friends who owed the Adeliks too much to break ranks now. Emeka was officially removed from his position. He sat in stunned silence as Uncle Tund read the resolution aloud, each word another nail in the coffin of his privileged life. When it was done, he looked at his father with something close to desperation. Father, you can't let this happen. Say something. Stop this. Chief Adelik was quiet for a long moment, his weathered hands folded on the table before him. When he finally spoke, his voice was tired. I should have done this years ago, Emeka. I hoped you would grow up on your own. That responsibility would come with time. But Adana is right. You haven't changed. This is about that girl. Emeka's voice turned vicious. The one who tried to trap me with a pregnancy? She was lying, father. The child probably wasn't even mine. The DNA test proved otherwise, Adana said coldly. The one you refused to take publicly but had done privately. I have the results. Your son is 4 years old now, being raised by Kayamaka's mother in Enugu, without a naira of support from you. The revelation hit the boardroom like a bomb. Even the directors who'd voted for Emeka looked shocked. A child meant legal obligations, financial responsibility, inheritance rights. This wasn't just a scandal anymore. It was a liability. You have a grandson, Adana told Chief Adelik, who you've never met because your son paid to hide his existence. His name is Chisholm. Kayamaka named him that because it means, God accompanies me. She needed to believe someone was with her when your son abandoned her to face the public disgrace alone. Chief Adelik's face had gone grey. A grandson? Emeka, is this true? The test could have been wrong. Those things aren't always accurate. 99.9% accurate, Uncle Tund interjected. I have the certified results from 3 separate laboratories. All conclusive. Would you like me to distribute copies? Emeka shot to his feet, his chair clattering backward. This is insane. You're all believing the word of some bitter woman with a grudge over your own flesh and blood? Father, She's been lying to everyone for months. Working as a cleaner, hiding who she really was. Who's to say she's not lying about everything else? The documents don't lie, one of the directors said quietly. And neither do the videos, Mr. Emeka. Your behavior towards staff has been problematic for years. We've all seen it. We just didn't think it was our place to intervene. Well, it is now, another director added. This company cannot afford the reputational damage of having someone in leadership who treats employees with such public contempt. Not in this age of social media, where every interaction can become a scandal. Emeka turned on them with fury. Reputational damage? I am this company. I've brought in more clients in the last year than any of you combined. I've closed deals worth hundreds of millions. And you're going to throw that away because I was mean to some cleaners. You humiliated them, Adana corrected. There's a difference. And those deals you closed? I've reviewed them. Half were negotiated by your junior staff, who you took credit for. The other half were handed to you by your father's connections. You've contributed almost nothing of substance to this company except scandals and bad publicity. How dare you? I dare because I own enough of this company to say what everyone else has been thinking for years. Adana's voice was steel. You're a liability, Emeka. A spoiled child playing businessman while actual professionals do the real work. The only reason you've lasted this long is because your father couldn't bear to see you fail. The truth of it hung in the air. Undeniable. Even Emeka seemed to recognize it, his bluster deflating into something uglier, a wounded animal looking for someone to bite. Fine, he spat. Take my position. Take my office. But you can't touch my shares. Those are mine by right, and there's nothing you can do about it. Actually, Uncle Tun said, consulting his notes, there is something we can discuss. The company bylaws include a clause about conduct unbecoming of an executive officer. Given Mr. Emeka's documented pattern of harassment, his denial of a child, and his misrepresentation of company achievements, the board could vote to place his shares in a trust until such time as he demonstrates fitness to manage them. Emeka's face went purple. You want to take my inheritance? The shares my father promised me. We want to protect the company, Chief Adel said quietly. Son, I love you. But I will not let you destroy everything I've built. If you can show genuine change, real accountability for your actions, perhaps in a few years we can revisit this. But right now, you need to step back. Step back. Emeka's laugh was bitter. You want me to just disappear? Let this gold digger take over my life. I don't want your life, Adana said. I want justice for my sister. And I want to ensure that no other employee of this company ever suffers the kind of emotional manipulation and public humiliation that you seem to think is entertainment. She pulled out another folder, this one thick with printouts. I have 47 documented complaints from female employees over the last 5 years. Unwanted advances. Inappropriate comments. Retaliation against those who rejected you. Your father buried most of them with NDAs and settlements, but I found the records. The directors were reading through their own copies now, faces growing darker with each page. This wasn't just bad behavior. It was a pattern of abuse that could bring lawsuits, government investigations, and the kind of media attention that destroyed companies. This is blackmail, Emeka said desperately. You're using my past mistakes to steal my future. I'm using your ongoing behavior to protect innocent people from becoming your future victims, Adana corrected. There's a difference. Chief Adel stood slowly, suddenly looking all of his 75 years. The vote on the share trust. Let's do it now. This vote was even more decisive. 10 in favor, 2 against, 1 abstention. Emeka's 15% of the company would be managed by an independent trustee for a minimum of 3 years, with distributions allowed only for reasonable living expenses. You're all making a mistake, Emeka said, his voice shaking with rage and something that might have been fear. When I get my lawyers involved, when the media hears about this hostile takeover. The media will hear about a company taking decisive action to address misconduct, Adana interrupted. They'll hear about a new era of accountability at Adelic Global Enterprises. And if you try to spin it differently, I'll release every document I have, the complaints, the DNA tests, the proof that you've been claiming credit for other people's work. Is that really the story you want told? Emeka stared at her, and for the first time, she saw genuine fear in his eyes. He'd spent his entire life insulated from consequences, protected by his father's wealth and power. Now, suddenly, he was vulnerable. "Who are you?" he asked again, but this time it wasn't a demand. It was a genuine question, as if he was finally seeing her as a real person instead of a prop in his life. "I'm someone who learned that power doesn't come from birth or money," Adana replied. "It comes from knowledge, preparation, and the willingness to fight for what's right. I'm someone who spent 5 years planning this moment. And I'm someone who won't stop until you understand what you took from my family." Emeka looked around the boardroom, at the directors who'd voted against him, at his father who hadn't defended him, at the lawyer who'd dismantled his life with legal precision. Finally, his eyes came back to Adana. "This isn't over," he said quietly. "You think you've won, but you don't know what I'm capable of when I'm pushed into a corner." "Then I suppose we'll both find out," Adana replied. As Emeka stormed out of the boardroom, slamming the door hard enough to rattle the glass walls, Adana felt no triumph. Only a hollow kind of satisfaction, like checking off the first item on a very long list. Chief Adelic approached her as the other directors filed out, murmuring among themselves about this unprecedented turn of events. "I failed her," the old man said simply. "Your sister. I knew what Emeka had done, and I chose protecting my family's reputation over doing what was right. That guilt has haunted me every day since." "Then why didn't you stop him?" Adana asked. "You had the power. You could have made him take responsibility." "Because he's my son," Chief Adelic said heavily. "And I was a coward who thought money could solve everything. I thought if I donated to your family, if I created scholarships, if I made grand gestures, it would balance the scales. But you can't buy back a life, can you?" "No," Adana said softly. "You can't." "What happens now?" he asked. "You have the shares, the voting power. You could push me out entirely if you wanted. Build a coalition, take control." Adana studied the man who had been like an uncle to her family, who had bounced her on his knee when she was small, who had promised her father that their children would grow up together, safe and prosperous. "I don't want your company, uncle," she said. "I want it to be better. I want the people who work here, from the executives to the cleaners, to feel safe. To know that merit matters more than family connections, that complaints will be heard, that power comes with responsibility. And Emeka. Emeka needs to learn what the rest of us already know, that actions have consequences. That you can't build a life on the backs of people you've broken." She paused. "But I won't destroy him completely. If he shows genuine change, if he takes real responsibility for his son, if he becomes the man you hoped he'd be instead of the monster he's become, then maybe we can talk about his future role here." Chief Adelic nodded slowly. "You're more generous than I deserve. Than he deserves." "I'm not being generous. I'm being strategic. A humiliated enemy becomes desperate, and desperate people are dangerous. But an enemy given a path to redemption? That's someone who might eventually become an ally." As Adana gathered her documents, preparing to move into her new office on the 40th floor, Uncle Tund pulled her aside. "Be careful," he warned. "Emeka left here angry, but I saw something else too. Calculation. He's planning something." "Let him plan," Adana said. "I've been 3 steps ahead of him for months. I'm not about to let him catch up now." But as she rode the elevator down to collect her personal items from the cleaners' quarters, a final goodbye to the role she'd played, Adana couldn't shake a feeling of unease. Emeka had looked at her with something beyond anger at the end. Something cold and measuring, like he was seeing her clearly for the first time and recalculating everything he thought he knew. She'd humiliated him publicly, stripped away his position and his power, exposed his darkest secrets to the people whose respect he craved most. What would a man like that do when he had nothing left to lose? Adana's phone buzzed with a text from an unknown number. You took everything from me. Now I'm going to take everything from you. Starting with the things you love most. Her hand tightened around the phone. So it was going to be war after all. Good. She'd been preparing for war for 5 years. Let Emeka come. She'd be ready. The attack came 3 days later, but not in the way Adana expected. She was reviewing quarterly reports in her new corner office when her phone exploded with notifications. Instagram, Twitter, Facebook, every social media platform lighting up simultaneously with tagged posts and mentions. The first video made her blood run cold. It was her. Or rather, someone who looked exactly like her, in a compromising position with a man in what appeared to be a hotel room. The deepfake was sophisticated, her face perfectly mapped onto someone else's body, the movements smooth and convincing. The caption read, Billionaire Heiress's Secret Life, Adana Okafor's Real Reason for Revenge. No, Adana breathed, scrolling through the flood of posts. There were dozens of them, each showing supposedly leaked footage from different angles, different scenarios. All fake. All designed to destroy her credibility. Her office door burst open. Uncle Tund rushed in, tablet in hand, his usually composed face tight with worry. Have you seen? I'm seeing it now, Adana said, her mind racing. This is Emeka. It has to be. The posts are coming from burner accounts, but the sophistication suggests professional help. He must have hired a reputation management firm, or more accurately, a reputation destruction firm. Adana's phone rang. Her mother's number in Enugu. She answered to hear her mother's voice, shaking with tears. Adana, what is this wickedness? The neighbors are showing me these videos, saying terrible things about you. Mama, it's not real, Adana said, forcing calm into her voice. It's fake. Computer-generated. Someone is trying to hurt me. Who would do such evil? And why? Because I hurt him first, Adana thought but didn't say. Because I forgot that wounded pride is more dangerous than active malice. After consoling her mother and hanging up, Adana pulled up the company's crisis management protocols. She needed to act fast, before this narrative took hold. Get our legal team on this immediately, she told Uncle Tund. I want cease and desist letters sent to every platform hosting these videos. I want the original IP addresses traced. And I want our PR firm to prepare a statement. That might not be enough, Uncle Tund warned. By the time we get these taken down, they'll have been shared thousands of times. The damage. He trailed off, but Adana understood. In Lagos, reputation was currency. A scandal like this, even a manufactured one, could destroy business relationships, tank stock prices, and turn her from victim to villain in the public eye. Her phone buzzed again. This time, a message from Chief Adelik, my office. Now. The old man was pacing when she arrived, his face darker than she'd ever seen it. My son has gone too far. These videos are fake, Adana said firmly. Surely you can see that. I can see it. You can see it. But can the shareholders see it? Can our business partners in Dubai and London who are already concerned about leadership stability? He stopped pacing, meeting her eyes. The board has received calls. 3 directors want an emergency meeting to discuss whether your notoriety makes you unfit to hold your shares. That's ridiculous. I'm the victim here. You're also the woman who infiltrated this company under false pretenses, who admitted to months of deception, who publicly humiliated my son in front of the board. Chief Adelik's voice was gentle but firm. I'm not saying they're right. I'm saying they have ammunition. Adana felt the trap closing around her. Emeka had been more strategic than she'd given him credit for. He couldn't attack her shares legally, so he was attacking her character publicly, creating enough chaos that the board would do his work for him. What do you suggest? She asked. Fight fire with fire, Chief Adelik said. You have evidence of his misconduct. Release it. Show the world who threw the first punch. And escalate this into all-out war? Adana shook her head. That destroys the company. Both of us go down, and everyone who works here suffers. Then what? Before Adana could answer, her phone rang again. A number she didn't recognize, but something made her answer. Hello, Adana. Emika's voice was smooth, almost friendly. I assume you've seen my handiwork. You're going to regret this, Adana said coldly. Creating fake pornography is illegal in Nigeria. You could face criminal charges. Could I? Prove I made them. Prove they're fake. Really prove it, in a way that satisfies millions of people who've already made up their minds. And do it before your reputation is so damaged that those shares of yours become worthless. What do you want, Emika? I want you to understand something. His tone hardened. You came into my life pretending to be someone you weren't. You humiliated me in front of people whose respect I've spent years earning. You tried to take everything from me because of something that happened 5 years ago, something I've moved past, even if you haven't. Moved past. Adana's grip on the phone tightened. You denied your own child. You let my sister die thinking she was alone and worthless. You've learned nothing, felt nothing. I've learned that power is the only thing that matters, Emika interrupted. And right now I have more of it than you do. Those videos will spread until every person in Lagos has seen them. Your mother will be ashamed. Your friends will wonder. Even people who believe you'll have doubts, because doubt is all it takes. So this is revenge for revenge. This is a lesson. Emika's voice dropped to something almost conversational. I'm giving you a choice, Adana. You can fight me, watch your reputation burn, and take this company down with us in a mutual destruction that benefits no one. Or you can be smart. Define smart. Sell me your shares. Fair market value, paid over 5 years. You walk away wealthy, intact, and free from this mess. I promise the videos disappear within hours. You get to keep your dignity, your privacy, your peace. Adana laughed bitterly. You think I'd give you what you want after everything you've done? I think you're a businesswoman who understands cost-benefit analysis. Ask yourself, is revenge worth destroying your own life? Because that's where this ends if you keep pushing. I have resources you can't imagine, firms that specialize in digital warfare, lawyers who can tie you up in courts for years, connections that can make you unemployable across 3 continents. And I have the truth. The truth is boring, Emika said dismissively. Scandal is interesting. Scandal spreads faster, sticks longer, and kills careers more effectively than any truth ever could. You of all people should know that. It's what killed your sister, isn't it? Not my denial, the scandal. The public disgrace. The whispers that followed her everywhere. The words hit like physical blows. Adana closed her eyes, remembering Kayamika's final days, the way she'd stopped going outside, stopped answering calls, stopped believing that tomorrow could be better than today. You're a monster, Adana whispered. I'm a survivor, Emika corrected. And I'm giving you a chance to be one too. 24 hours. Adana. After that, the videos get worse. I have a whole campaign planned. Financial records suggesting embezzlement, witness statements about fraud, medical documents claiming psychological instability. All fake, all believable, all devastating. The board will never believe. The board will believe what's convenient. Right now, you're a complication. Someone who brought drama and instability. If I give them a reason to cut you loose, they'll take it gratefully. The line went dead. Adana stood in Chief Adalik's office, her mind spinning through scenarios. Every move she could make, Emika had already anticipated. Every weapon she could deploy, he'd developed a counter for. He'd learned from her. That was the terrifying part. She'd shown him how to plan, how to be patient, how to strike where it hurt most. And now he was using those lessons against her. What did he say? Chief Adelique asked quietly. He offered to buy my shares. Make all of this disappear if I just walk away. Will you? Adana thought of her sister. Of Chisholm, the 4-year-old nephew she'd never met, growing up without a father because Emeka had found it inconvenient to acknowledge him. Of every cleaner and secretary and junior employee who'd suffered Emeka's casual cruelty because no one with power had cared enough to stop him. No, she said. But I need a different strategy. A smarter one. What do you have in mind? Adana pulled out her phone, scrolling to a contact she'd been saving for exactly this moment. Yetund Coker, investigative journalist for one of Nigeria's most respected newspapers, known for her fearless exposés of corruption and abuse of power. I'm going to give her an exclusive, Adana said. The whole story. Kayamaka, the complaints, the DNA test, everything. But I'm also going to give her something Emeka doesn't expect. What's that? The truth about myself. My deception, my revenge plot, my own mistakes. Adana met Chief Adelique's surprised gaze. I'm going to own every part of this story before he can twist it. And I'm going to let Nigeria decide who the real villain is. That's incredibly risky. You'll be exposing yourself. I'm already exposed. Emeka made sure of that. Adana's voice was steady now, resolve replacing fear. But he made one critical mistake. He assumed I'd fight his lies with more lies. Instead, I'm going to fight them with a truth so raw and honest that people will have to choose. Believe a man with a documented history of abuse, or believe a woman who admits her faults while standing up for those who can't stand up for themselves. Chief Adelique studied her for a long moment. You've thought this through? I've thought about nothing else since I came back to Lagos. I knew confronting Emeka would get ugly. I just didn't expect him to be this vicious. She paused. But maybe that's better. Maybe Nigeria needs to see exactly who he is when his power is threatened. And if it backfires? If people see you as just another rich person playing games? Then I lose, Adana said simply. But at least I lose on my own terms, telling my own story. She made the call to Yetund right there, setting up an interview for the following morning. Then she called her PR firm, her legal team, and the 3 board members she trusted most. By midnight, she drafted a statement that would run alongside Yetund's article. By 2 a.m., she'd prepared evidence packets for every claim she planned to make. By dawn, she'd rehearsed her story until she could tell it without crying, though her voice still shook on Kayamaka's name. As the sun rose over Lagos, Adana stood at her office window, watching the city wake. Somewhere out there, Emeka was probably sleeping peacefully, confident in his victory. Let him rest. He'd need his strength for what was coming. Because Adana Okafor had learned something in her months as a cleaner, watching the wealthy from below. Power based on fear was fragile. Power based on truth was unbreakable. And she was about to show Lagos the difference. Who do you think will win this war? Team Adana or Team Emeka? Comment below and share this story with anyone who loves intense revenge drama. The final confrontation is coming. You won't want to miss it. The article dropped at exactly 6 a.m., time to catch Lagos's morning commute. Yetund Coker had titled it, The Cleaner Who Became a CEO, One Woman's Fight for Justice in Corporate Nigeria. By 7 a.m., it was trending on every social platform in Nigeria. By 8 a.m., international news outlets were picking it up. By 9 a.m., Emeka's carefully constructed narrative had shattered like dropped glass. Adana watched it unfold from her office, her phone buzzing constantly with messages of support, interview requests, and calls from board members who suddenly remembered their backbones. The truth, messy, complicated, painful, was spreading faster than Emeka's manufactured scandal ever could. Yetund had done her job brilliantly. The article included everything: verified DNA test results proving Chisholm's parentage, screenshots of the 47 employee complaints, audio recordings from women Emeka had harassed, and most devastatingly, Kayamaka's suicide note, which explicitly named Emeka's public humiliation as the reason she couldn't continue living. But it also included Adana's full confession about her infiltration, her months of deception, her carefully planned revenge. She'd hidden nothing, admitted everything, and let readers judge for themselves whether her methods were justified. The comment sections were fierce battlegrounds. Some called her a hero. Others called her manipulative. But almost everyone agreed on one thing. Emeka Adeleke had crossed lines that no amount of privilege could excuse. At 10 a.m., Chief Adeleke called an emergency press conference. Adana stood beside him as cameras flashed, reporters shouting questions over each other in their eagerness to capture this moment. "I want to address the videos that have been circulating about Miss Okafor," Chief Adeleke began, his voice carrying the authority of decades in business. "Our technical team, along with independent experts, has confirmed these videos are sophisticated deepfakes, computer-generated fabrications designed to destroy her reputation. We are pursuing criminal charges against whoever created and distributed them." A reporter shouted, "Do you believe your son was responsible?" Chief Adeleke's pause was answer enough, but he spoke anyway. "I believe that people who feel threatened sometimes make terrible choices. I also believe that my failure as a father to hold my son accountable years ago has led us to this moment. For that, I owe Miss Okafor, her family, and every employee of this company a profound apology." "Miss Okafor," another reporter called out, "some are saying your methods were just as unethical as what you're accusing Emeka Adeleke of. How do you respond?" Adana stepped to the microphone. "I don't claim to be perfect. I deceived people, and I'm not proud of that. But I did it to expose a pattern of abuse that had been hidden and enabled for years. Sometimes the only way to reveal rot is to get close enough to see it clearly." But was revenge the right motivation? "It started as revenge," Adana admitted. "For my sister, for myself, for the injustice of watching someone destroy lives without consequences. But it became something bigger. It became about accountability, about showing that no one, no matter how wealthy or connected, is above basic human decency." "What about Kayamika's son?" "Your nephew." Adana's expression softened. "Chisholm deserves better than he's gotten. He deserves a father who acknowledges him, financial support, and a legacy that isn't built on denial and shame. I'm setting up a trust fund for his education and future. As for his father's involvement, that's up to Emeka, if he can find the courage to face his responsibilities." Across town, in his luxury apartment in Banana Island, Emeka watched the press conference with growing horror. His phone had been ringing non-stop since the article dropped. Friends distancing themselves, business contacts canceling meetings, even his mother calling to ask if the allegations were true. The deepfake videos, which were supposed to bury Adana, had been exposed within hours. His expensive reputation firm had gone silent, probably afraid of being connected to potential criminal charges. And now his father was publicly calling him a coward on national television. He'd lost. Completely and utterly lost. But what burned more than the loss was the realization that Adana had beaten him at his own game. She'd anticipated his moves, prepared for his attacks, and turned his weapons against him. More than that, she'd done something he'd never learned how to do. She'd told the truth, even when it hurt her. There was a knock on his door. Emeka opened it to find Uncle Tund, briefcase in hand. "I'm not signing anything," Emeka said immediately. "I'm not here for signatures," Uncle Tund replied. "I'm here to deliver a message. From your son." He pulled out a photograph, a small boy with Kayamika's eyes and Emeka's smile, playing with blocks in what looked like a modest home in Enugu. On the back, in careful handwriting, someone had written, "His name is Chisholm. He asks about his father sometimes. We tell him Daddy is busy. He's too young to know the truth yet." Emeka stared at the photo, something cracking in his chest. "Why are you showing me this?" "Because Miss Okafor asked me to. She said you needed to see what you've been running from." Uncle Tund set the photo on the entry table. "She's offering you a choice, Emeka. A real one, not an ultimatum." "What choice?" "You can keep fighting. Hire lawyers, file lawsuits, drag this through courts for years while your reputation burns and your son grows up without you. Or you can do something you've never done before. Take responsibility. And what does taking responsibility look like, according to Saint Adana? A public acknowledgement of Chisholm. Child support, backdated and ongoing. A formal apology to the women you harassed. And therapy, real therapy, not some PR stunt, to address why you treat people the way you do. Uncle Tund picked up his briefcase. In exchange, she'll recommend to the board that your shares be returned to you after 1 year instead of 3, and she'll work with you instead of against you. Why would she offer me anything? Because she's not you, Emeka. She doesn't want mutual destruction. She wants what's best for the company, for Chisholm, and believe it or not, for you too. Uncle Tund moved toward the door. Think about it. But don't think too long. The press conference is still happening, and reporters are going to start showing up here soon. You'll need to decide what story you want to tell. After Uncle Tund left, Emeka sat alone in his expensive apartment, surrounded by luxury that suddenly felt hollow. He thought about Kayamaka, about the night she'd told him she was pregnant and he'd laughed, assuming she was trying to trap him. About the weeks that followed, when he'd systematically destroyed her credibility because admitting the truth felt like weakness. He'd never wanted to be cruel. He just wanted to protect himself, his future, his pride. But somewhere along the way, protecting himself had become more important than being decent. And now he was paying the price. His phone buzzed. A text from an unknown number. I'm sorry I wasn't stronger. I'm sorry I couldn't stay. Please don't let our son think his mother was weak. Tell him I loved him more than my own life. Tell him he was wanted. See. It was Kayamaka's last message, sent hours before she died, that her mother had saved for 5 years. Adana must have asked her to send it now. Emeka read it 3 times, and for the first time in his adult life, he cried. Not for himself. Not for his lost position or damaged reputation. But for a woman he'd destroyed, a son he'd never met, and the man he could have been if someone had held him accountable before it was too late. At noon, Emeka Adelik called his own press conference. He stood at a podium, no notes, no lawyer, just him and the truth he'd spent 5 years running from. My name is Emeka Adelik, he began, his voice shaking. And I am the father of a 4-year-old boy named Chisholm. For 5 years, I've denied his existence because I was a coward who cared more about my reputation than my responsibilities. The crowd of reporters went silent, sensing something rare, genuine contrition from one of Lagos's elite. I am also the man who drove Kayamaka Okafor to take her own life through public humiliation, emotional manipulation, and deliberate cruelty. I cannot undo that. I cannot bring her back. But I can acknowledge the truth and try to do better. He pulled out the photograph of Chisholm. This is my son. He doesn't know me, and that's my fault. But if his grandmother will allow it, I want to change that. I want to be the father Kayamaka deserved to co-parent with, the father Chisholm deserves to have. What about the allegations of harassment? A reporter called out. True, Emeka said simply. All of them. I've treated employees like they were beneath me because I was taught that wealth equals worth. I was wrong. And to every woman I harassed, every cleaner I mocked, every person I made feel small to make myself feel big, I'm sorry. Truly sorry. And the deep fake videos of Miss Okafor? Emeka took a breath. I commissioned them. I paid a firm to create them and spread them because I wanted revenge. I wanted to destroy her the way she'd destroyed my pride. It was illegal, immoral, and exactly the kind of behavior that proves everything she said about me is right. The admission sent the media into a frenzy. Emeka stood there, letting the chaos wash over him, feeling strangely lighter than he had in years. I'm turning myself in to the police after this conference, he continued, for the creation and distribution of fake pornographic images. I'll accept whatever consequences come from that. And I'm stepping away from any role in Adelik Global Enterprises until I can prove, through actions, not words, that I've changed. Do you think Miss Okafor will accept your apology? I don't know, Emeka said honestly. And I'm not sure she should. But I'm going to try to earn it anyway, because it's the right thing to do. Not for my shares, not for my reputation, but because I owe it to my son to become someone he can be proud of. At her office, Adana watched Emeka's press conference with tears streaming down her face. Uncle Tund handed her a tissue, saying nothing. Do you think he means it? She asked finally. I think he wants to mean it, Uncle Tund replied. Whether he follows through is a different question. But this public admission, this vulnerability, this is more than I expected from him. Adana's phone buzzed with a video call. She answered to see an older woman, Kayamika's mother, her own aunt, holding a small boy on her lap. Adana, her aunt said softly. Chisholm, say hello to your auntie. The little boy waved shyly, and Adana saw Kayamika in every feature, the same bright eyes, the same gentle smile. But there was Emeka too, in the shape of his face, the set of his jaw. Hello Chisholm, Adana said, her voice thick with emotion. Your mama loved you so much. We all do. Mama's in heaven, Chisholm said matter-of-factly. Grandma says she's watching me. She is, baby. She definitely is. After the call ended, Adana sat in silence, processing everything that had happened. In 3 weeks, she'd gone from cleaner to CEO, from anonymous to notorious, from revenge seeker to reluctant forgiver. She thought about Kayamika, about whether this outcome would have satisfied her sister's need for justice. She'd never know for sure. But she hoped that somewhere, somehow, Kayamika could see that her death hadn't been meaningless, that it had sparked change, exposed cruelty, and maybe, just maybe, saved other women from the same fate. There was a soft knock on her door. Chief Adelik entered, looking older but somehow more at peace than she'd seen him in weeks. I watched my son's confession, he said. I'm proud of him. Finally. It's a start, Adana agreed. The real test is what he does next. And you? What do you do next? Adana gestured to the stacks of files on her desk. Proposals for employee protection policies, revised harassment reporting procedures, mandatory training programs for all executives. I build something better, she said. A company where power doesn't protect predators, where complaints are taken seriously, where everyone, from the CEO to the cleaners, is treated with basic human dignity. That's ambitious. So was infiltrating your company as a cleaner to expose your son, Adana replied with a slight smile. I don't do things halfway. Chief Adelik laughed, a real laugh that seemed to release years of tension. No, you certainly don't. Your father would have been proud. He always said you had steel in your spine. And Mama's heart, Adana added. That's the part that keeps me from becoming what I fought against. As Chief Adelik left, Adana returned to the window, watching Lagos spread out before her in all its chaotic beauty. The city that had witnessed her sister's tragedy, her own deception, and now, hopefully, the beginning of real change. Her phone buzzed one more time. A message from Emeka, sent from a police station. I know I don't deserve forgiveness. But thank you for giving me a chance to try to earn it. For Chisholm's sake, if nothing else. Adana typed back. Chisholm deserves a father who learned from his mistakes instead of repeating them. Be that father. She hit send and then put her phone away, turning to the work that waited. There would be more battles ahead, resistance from old guard board members, media scrutiny, the inevitable stumbles of trying to change corporate culture. But for now, she'd won what mattered most. Truth over lies, accountability over privilege, and the chance to build something better from the ruins of the past. Outside her window, Lagos pulsed with life. Vendors calling their wares, buses honking, millions of people chasing their own dreams of better tomorrows. Adana smiled. She was one of them now, not above the city but part of it. And that, she realized, was exactly where she wanted to be. What an incredible journey. Did Adana get the justice she deserved? Do you think Emeka can truly change? Drop your thoughts in the comments below. If this story touched your heart, please like, share, and subscribe for more powerful tales of revenge, redemption, and resilience. Where are you watching from? Let us know in the comments. Lagos, New York, or somewhere else in our beautiful world. Thank you for watching, and remember, accountability isn't just about punishment, it's about growth. See you in the next story.